The Marine Climate Change Impacts Partnership is essentially a mechanism for getting really good science to the people who need it. This is marine climate change science specifically, and the people who need it are generally the policy makers, the decision makers, people who work in agencies and others. Because we've been looking for over 10 years with these cards, what we're realising is the picture is far more complicated in how climate change impacts on the marine environment. So instead of it just being a very simple case of the temperature coming down and how things respond to temperature, actually climate means a lot more than just temperature, and the way things respond is far more complicated than things just thinking it's too hot, I'm going to move deeper or further north or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely more complicated than we first thought. The state of science has moved on massively. Where before we were making some tentative comments about what might be happening with, say, ocean acidification, or to do with what's happening in the intertidal, for example, with things in rock pools and living on beaches, we're now able to say with a higher degree of certainty exactly what is happening and how these things are responding and how those things are responding as a unit. So the science has moved on considerably since when we started 10 years ago. So for an example, ocean acidification was quite a simple story when we started. It was the pH is decreasing, it's going to be bad for the whole system, and that was the story. We now realise that although overall there are deleterious effects to the marine ecosystem, there are also going to be some winners. For instance, increased carbon dioxide might help the seagrasses and some algae. So it's a far more subtle and complicated picture than we first thought. But this is good. This is how science should work. It starts off with the broad sweep, and now we're getting the detail worked out. I'd say the main lesson we've actually learned over the last 10 years is that you have to communicate this difference between what is going on over very long time periods, over decades perhaps, compared with what is going on year to year. And this is what causes most confusion, I think, to the public and the policy audience we're dealing with. As an example of that, when we started MCCIP, we were really on the back of a period where temperature had been rising quite dramatically, which we expected to continue. Of course, we now know that between 2002, 2013, 14, around that area, there was actually a slight decrease in the overall trend. However, we then went on in the years after that to see another increase, and if you look over decades, the trend is still upward, and that's quite a subtle message to provide to policymakers. The MCCIP report card has become well respected, and I think I'm not just saying that because it's sort of hopeful that people like it. It's actually, you can look across the board and see in terrestrial reporting, for example, they've now taken the MCCIP model and used it to produce terrestrial and freshwater report cards. It's also been taken in different countries. Australia produced their own version, very clearly modelled on the MCCIP report card, and there are a number of examples actually that we could point out where they've basically said we're going to take the MCCIP model because it's proved to work. So the MCCIP product has never been static, the way we do things, the way we report, what we produce. So we're going to continue evolving, and really it's going back to the community, because at the end of the day this only works because we're in dialogue with both the science community, who are providing the information, and with the policy community who are using it. So we're taking all the feedback from our latest card in the first 10 years and looking how we move forward. Most likely that's going to mean slight shifts in focus, but never at the expense of doing what we think people recognise us for, which is producing these really nice succinct summaries.